Welcome to the Mukilteo Football Show. My name is Miles. The Doink for the division for the Chiefs. Kansas City beats the Chargers 19-17. Mahomes-Herbert duel, another chapter. This used to be shootout, right? The Chargers and Chiefs were in an arms race to shoot out. Herbert's throwing the rookie record for touchdowns in 2020. Mahomes had the actual NFL record for touchdowns in 2018. We're thinking this decade, 2020s, we are going to see Chiefs and Chargers just shootouts. And they've both pivoted to become defensive juggernauts. And it's very frustrating for the Chargers that the Chiefs are the ones who both made the pivot successfully earlier and also much better. They're in the middle of a historic dynasty. Chris Jones, Nick Bolton, Justin Reed, that Steve Spagnuolo defense. The Chargers, they had a false start. Brandon Staley couldn't get the defense going, but Jim Harbaugh, year one, is getting that Chargers defense going. They may be one of the best defenses in the league. It's just so funny that now they were losing the shootouts. Now they're losing the defensive battles. Chargers they put up a fight though, at least. It didn't go well in the first half. Kansas City went up 13-0 after what looked like a bad injury to Justin Herbert, some sort of thigh contusion, something bad. Right after that injury, Heineke scrambles up the middle for their only rushing yards in the first half, basically. The Chargers punt, and that's when the Chiefs get their one touchdown drive of the first half to go up 13-0. Mahomes touchdown number 239 to DeAndre Hopkins catching touchdown number 83. Hopkins is ahead of Kelsey, by the way, career touchdowns. Hopkins has 83, Kelsey has 79. Anyway, thankfully for the Chargers, they did battle back. Second half, I believe the first two drives of the second half were both touchdowns. A lot of great Justin Herbert magic, a lot of great play action, Greg Roman special type of stuff. It's a really good thing for both Herbert and Roman that they had this little stretch to make the game competitive, these two touchdown drives, because the first half was abysmal. They punted 6 out of 6 times. They were coming off the Falcons game where, yes, they won, but the offense only scored 6 points. They needed at least just something narratively to kind of keep the hopes alive for the Chargers. But the crazy thing is, once Herbert threw his second touchdown, or I can't remember, but that was the Quentin Johnston one. The last one was the Quentin Johnston touchdown. That was 3 minutes and 36 seconds in the third quarter. So there's 18 minutes left in the game. There were only 3 more drives after that for the rest of the game. Kansas City has a 12-play, 45-yard drive for a field goal that takes the lead. Then the Chargers come back in the fourth quarter with basically the whole fourth quarter, 14 plays, 57 yards, 4.5 minutes. They stall out in the red zone with that big sack. That was very important. Chiefs defense strikes at the right time. Chargers kick a field goal to go ahead. And then there's 4.5 minutes left in the game, and the Chiefs both drove the field and bled all of that time. Andy Reid with the timeout with the 1 second to go. And then Matthew Wright doinks it in. Missing it would have been funnier. Just because of all things, the Chiefs lose to the Chargers in the most crazy karma way. Everything's been going their way and they finally doesn't. You know what? I take it back. This is funnier. This is classic Chargers and classic Chiefs. It's just not fair. The Chargers, if the situation was reversed and the Chargers kick that, the doink is going the other way out and they lose. You just know it. So Chiefs get the AFC West title. All of it is just adding to like Chief exhaustion. I don't mind it. I mean, it's fun to have a dynasty, but I'll tell you this: when the playoffs start, I will be rooting for them to lose. I'm ready for this to be over, but they get their 9th straight AFC West title, trailing only the 11 straight AFC East titles of the Bill Belichick, Tom Brady era, which is that was actually 2009 to whatever the final year was there, probably 2019. So that 11 division titles in a row streak for the Patriots does not include their undefeated season or their first 3 Super Bowls. Pretty impressive. And the dynasties before it, like the 80s 49ers, the 70s Steelers, 60s Packers, they never quite did it, though they often played in like 5-team divisions, so it was exponentially harder that way. I don't know. Doesn't matter. That's not even the huge story. The huge story is the Chiefs have won 15 straight 1-score games. Chris Jones on the post game suggests a you're welcome to NBC and the TV stations. Keep the ratings up, baby. But I feel like this is just floating around. It's a way to kind of capture our like shared exasperation, especially at the Broncos game when the Chiefs escaped with blocking a kick after the Broncos had really had that game won. And then, of course, the Raiders game adds to it even further, as well as the Ravens and Bengals. There's just been a lot of fun stuff that we've been watching. A lot of it's on primetime, but it's not like super crazy to think that the Chiefs have a win streak going, especially when the win streak isn't consecutive and it kind of arbitrarily removes games. Like, the Chiefs having some sort of streak with wins makes sense. They're 104-28 in the Mahomes era. They are 104-28. They're a team that wins games. I mean, them being the one that the streak isn't super surprising. And this streak is weird. It's like you have to win by 1 score, but if you lose by more than 1 score, the streak continues. So like the Bills' loss doesn't count as a loss because they lost by 9. So the 1-score streak's still going. It's like, I don't know. We're starting to get into baseball type of stuff where we're talking about home runs on a sunny day in an afternoon game when there's a Democrat in office or something. It's like just weird stuff, but maybe not quite that extreme. But it is a way to capture our imaginations of what this season is like, which is the Chiefs are scraping the bottom of the Mahomes magic. They're trying. This defense is good enough to win a Super Bowl again, and they're just scraping the bottom of the barrel, hoping for a little bit more out of Mahomes. So, the doink for the division. They win it. By the way, just to close it out, I am enjoying the prime of Mike Tirico. He is just number 1 on the announcers list. This decade, the 2020s, it's the decade of Tirico. He's always been good, but man, he's just crisp and clear. He's got some boom, some zazz in his voice, some like fine wine aged whiskey barrel voice. And I don't know if he's a drinker or whatever, but you don't have to be a drinker to appreciate the way that a barrel. I was going to go into a Scotch whiskey thing, but we don't have time. Mukilteo Football Show. This show is football, everything, NFL history, legacy, ups and downs of a season. We got shows Sunday, Monday, and Thursday after the prime time games. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. So tomorrow, got the Simpsons game. Bengals, Cowboys. I heard that game couldn't be flexed out because it was like, a terrible strain on the animator's wrists. That's a Simpsons joke, by the way. Live programming for animation is very difficult. It's a terrible strain on the animator's wrists. I'll be coming in. Don't care about the game as much, but I'm interested how the Simpsons broadcast goes. And I've got like 14 Simpsons awards to give out for the NFL season, because I'm a huge Simpsons fan, at least, the 90s Simpson. So it's going to be a perfectly cromulent episode, so tune on in. Yeah, it'll be fun. So week 14 in the books. More good news for the Chiefs happened in the afternoon. The Bills lost the highest scoring game of the year against the Los Angeles Rams. So now the Chiefs have a 2-game lead for the 1 seed, even though the Bills hold the tiebreaker against the Chiefs because they're the only ones to beat the Chiefs so far. Now there's only 4 weeks left with a 2-game lead. I think the New York Times has Kansas City at 70% odds for the 1 seed in the AFC, which will be big for them because that secondary was banged up. I don't know the nature of all those injuries, but Bills game was fun. Now, I thought the Rams kind of had the game the whole time and almost blew it. Like, it wasn't like a back and forth crazy battle, even though when you look at the stats on Pro Football Reference, tomorrow you're going to see, 10 touchdowns, no turnovers. Like, it's just a crazy game. The Fox broadcast pointed that out. The total yards, total touchdowns without a turnover was breaking all sorts of records. But it wasn't like sloppy defense, like shootout either. It was a good game that the Rams were controlling. They stumbled near the end. Josh Allen is a freaking beast. The Bills' running game was clicking all of a sudden, and they caught up. And it kind of seemed inevitable that the Bills were going to pull this game out until the Rams did something that they would not have done, which is they got to, I forget what yard line it was, but it was within field goal range. A 4th and 5. The Rams have watched their 17-point lead disappear. It was 38-21 to end the third quarter. Now it's 38-35. The Rams are in the red zone. There's like 3 minutes left in the game. Sean McVay, even in the 2021 season, would have kicked that field goal to go up 41-35 and then lose to the Bills 42-41 when Josh Allen pumps one into the end zone at the end, or probably runs one into the end zone at the end. Sean McVay of 3-4 years ago would have kicked that field goal. But the Dan Campbell effect, baby. And because it works, right? Are you a wuss? The manly thing isn't to kick and take the points. The manly thing is to win the freaking game. Go out there with Matthew Stafford paying $1 billion, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp getting paid $1 billion. Exaggeration of prices, but go out there and win the dang game. A field goal doesn't do crap for you right now. So sorry, I'm getting so heated, but this is my standard thing. He goes for it. They get it. It's a beautiful sidearm from Stafford. Shortly later, they get it to Puka Nacua for the 19-yard touchdown, capping off his incredible day. Big block by Cooper Kupp on that play, by the way. But, Nacua had 162 yards, 12 receptions today. Now it's 48-38, right? 44-35. Wow, that was too many scores. They're now up by more than one possession, is what I'm saying. And so the Bills, they just had a garbage time drive. They did get a touchdown, but so be it. They had their own little clock management question there. Tom Brady was completely on it. McDermott runs the ball at the 1-yard line with 3 timeouts, gets stuffed, has to burn one of the timeout, and like Brady was harping on, changed the entire complexion of, yes, the desperation part of the game, but from like reasonable desperation to complete desperation. If they had thrown the ball 4 times to try and score on 1st and goal and saved their timeouts, then all they needed to do was kick it off and stop the Rams from getting a 1st down for a chance to win the game. By running it and not getting it and needing to waste one of those timeouts, they required an onside kick, which are so hard to recover now. That decision was within the control of the Bills. Why? It's just absolutely no sense. But, it's not a total loss for the Bills. It's a loss, but they already clinched the AFC East. They just they're just killing time at this point. And Josh Allen did help pad his stats for his MVP candidacy. He was low on passing touchdowns, so it was good for him to get 3, up to 23 for the year. He's up to 9 rushing touchdowns. He had 3 rushing touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns. And the whole big thing is he was a 3-3. 3 rushing touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns. Never happened before. I was surprised. Like, Fran Tarkenton never did that. The MVP seasons of Steve Young and Cam Newton and Lamar Jackson, never, no one had a 3-3. But, hey, props to Josh Allen. And, the Bills are still sitting fine. So they will hopefully focus their attention on padding Josh Allen's stats, getting him that MVP. All right, bouncing around a couple other places. Kirk Cousins. We've officially reached the nadir of Atlanta Falcon Kirk Cousins. I mean, just a huge spotlight on him. Partly because the game was in Minnesota, right? Partly because Minnesota's doing so good, and Sam Darnold's throwing 5 touchdowns against him. Like, the worst time for Darnold to snap back up into statistical, dominance. Hasn't really done that since September. Like, they were talking, Justin Jefferson hadn't scored in months. But this time he does. And so all looks bad for Cousins. And then Cousins had 2 interceptions and no touchdowns. Which, honestly, I feel bad for him because that's more happenstance than anything. He led 3 touchdown drives. They just all ended with runs. But now the Kirk Cousins optics. Darnold's thrown 5 touchdowns. That sucks. Cousins hasn't thrown any touchdowns in 4 weeks. And he's thrown 8 interceptions. He had 347 yards today. People are calling for Penix. I'm not calling for Penix. I just don't think that you're still competing for the division. And, I'm guessing the fact, I don't know this, but the fact that they haven't yet indicates to me that he's not exactly lighting it up in the QB room and at practice. The Bucs certainly have their own problem. They went to 7-6 today. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers did. They're a game ahead of the Atlanta Falcons, who are 6-7. But the Falcons got the tiebreaker. They beat the Bucs twice. And, I mean, anything can happen in the playoffs, right? But this, you know what? This conversation of should they get Penix the reps is why you don't take him at number 8. We had this conversation. We told you. You could have some contributor, some rookie contributor in the top 10, but now we've got this weird conversation, the curse of contention. You're wondering if Cousins should be benched because he's on a real low streak. I don't know. But we'll see. And Vikings are going up to 11-2. They still have a technical chance at NFC 1 seed, 5% chance I see. That seems low considering they're 1 game behind the Lions and have a game against the Lions. Need to look into that a little bit more. But the Vikings, man, same old, in my opinion. I still think they're just destined for a playoff loss as Darnold is overmatched in some way by some team. All right, we're just kind of ping-ponging around. The next Vikings quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, has checked out. He will probably not be a Jet, and the Jets are officially eliminated from the playoffs with losing to the Miami Dolphins today. The Onion had the best article about Aaron Rodgers, which was Rodgers takes blame for the parts of the game that the Jets were winning. And I mean, Rodgers is always on his same old thing. He won't be offended. He won't be upset, right? If the Jets don't want him back. He will be offended and he will be upset. And then we will be chastised for pointing out that he's offended and upset. He's allowed to be offended and upset. It's exactly what he did last year. He chastised all of us for reporting that the week 1 Achilles injury was going to knock him out for the season. And he's like, you have no idea what I can do. You don't know, blah, blah, blah. And then when it got to the end of the season, he chastised all of us, lecturing school marm about how, you don't really come back from an Achilles in 3 months. It's like, yeah, that's what we said. He's just a blowhard. But for the Jets, they'll be parting ways with Aaron Rodgers. This experiment's over. I I mean, Salah wasn't going to make the season, so, he certainly wouldn't be back next year. So it's not like they lost anything. There's a whole new slate, but something's just wrong with the Jets. They missed the playoffs for the 14th straight season. Their last playoff win was against the Roethlisberger Steelers in the 2010 AFC title game, who, by the way, were on their way to lose to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers in that Super Bowl. But that's all. That was the peak for the Jets. That was right after they beat Brady Belichick in the divisional round, right in the middle of the Patriots dynasty. That was the peak for 21st century Jets. Nothing has gone right. Geno Smith to Sam Darnold to Zach Wilson, Todd Bowles, Adam Gase, Robert Saleh. It's just been lose, lose, lose. And Woody Johnson, the owner, of course, has a lot to blame to go off of this. I mean, even as we list those names, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, Todd Bowles, likely Robert Saleh, those guys have bounced back into better organizations and proven that success was possible. There's just something wrong with the Jets, man, and they handed over the keys to a guy. Think back to when this happened. It's so predictable. Aaron Rodgers gets all his guys in there, gets everything he wants. It doesn't go his way, and he throws his hands up. Well, I didn't do it. That's Aaron Rodgers. That's what he's like. We could have predicted this, and many people did. But yeah, 14 years without playoffs. Not even an appearance. When I was a kid in the 90s, the futility of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was legendary. Like, to me, it seemed like they hadn't made the playoffs in 100 years. It felt like the Chicago Cubs, World Series thing. Looking back, it was 14 years. It was 83 to 96. So the Jets are in that. So they suck, and interested to see what will happen from here. All right, we'll see you tomorrow for some Simpsons. My name is Miles. Good night.